Announcer screams for everyone to run from the island, making it clear this is not just a relegation defense battle. Now Yuna blurts out, "What do you mean?" As Yuna closes in, Chimpanzee braces himself and admits he does not know what Glory is planning, only that several people are going around killing the deer anchors. Now, Dako brother cuts in with a harsher warning. There are more than 2 beer anchors here, and even if every deer anchor joins forces, they still cannot beat them. He coughs and says outright that they can never do it. Yuna recoils at that and blurts out that there are several beer anchors, then immediately demands to know where they are now. Instead, something slams into the left side in a burst of debris, cutting the answer off. Yuna jerks forward and shouts, "Mister!" And Dako brother speaks up, admitting he did not want to come here yesterday, but now says coming was the right call. Now Chimpanzee crouches forward and singles out an off-panel girl, saying he did not know there was such a pretty girl here. Now Yuna turns that straight back on the off-panel target, demanding to know if they're the one going around killing people, and she blurts out that this is supposed to be a D rank test. He shuts her down as none of her business, and Dako brother brushes off the whole idea of collecting IDs, saying he is just going to kill all the D ranks. Dako brother cuts in with a flat refusal, then immediately says B rank killer has changed their mind. Now Dako brother changes course completely. He says he will not kill the off-panel target after all, because he plans to take them instead. And Yuna immediately questions that, calling him a creepy pervert and pointing out that he does not look very skilled if he is really supposed to be B rank. He brushes her jab aside, raises a hand, and asks if he can handle him alone. A second later, Dako brother turns the moment into another taunt, asking why Yuna is checking him out and saying he likes it. He drops the taunt and launches straight at Chimpanzee, diving down at full speed as a shout of "thinking about you" tears through the attack. As he drops in, a large hand reaches down toward Yuna, and she jerks her gaze up in shock. Instead, Yuna and Chimpanzee clamp down on Dako brother's arm and cut him off cold. They were thinking about him too, and now his opponents are them. Someone behind them blurts out, "Dako brother," as another voice adds that disciple Pietro always shows up at crucial moments. Now, a warning goes up as Chimpanzee appears above them on a tree branch. One of the women calls a B-rank killer going around killing people, another labels him a pervert, and B-rank killer blurts out, asking if he's really that bad. And the Dako brothers only pile on, waving stuffed dolls and mocking the claimed B-rank as nothing more than a baby monkey. They add that they already dealt with enough of those ministers back at the church. Now Chimpanzee drives his club up at the black-haired suited figure, and the suited man has to catch it with both hands at close range. Over the clash, a voice vows they will never be that careless again. Now Yuna cuts in and says they are different now, with B-rank killer and Dako brother flanking her. She decides they need to try this without Sungi. But Dako brother cuts her off, calls Yuna by name, and tells her to save her strength for later. And Chimpanzee makes sure the point lands, looking at someone off-panel and telling them, "You understand." Now the challenge is set in simple terms. To become Pietro one day, this is just a small step they have to clear. One Dako brother rolls his shoulder and asks Dako brother if he is ready, while Yuna watches from behind. Across the clearing, Dako brother stays crouched on the fallen tree and watches as streaking shots tear toward Yuna. The ground around her position erupts with impact marks. He watches the deer anchors and starts questioning what they are doing. Dako brother immediately suspects they might be running away. He does not get to finish because Dako brother comes flying in with a high kick aimed straight at Chimpanzee, and Chimpanzee whips around, shouting that they are not. Across the clash, Dako brother follows through with a long, driving strike, and the hit blasts Chimpanzee backward. Chimpanzee is sent down and away as the impact erupts between them. He freezes and blurts out, "What was that?" Instead, Dako brother spots Chimpanzee already there and jolts at how close he is, wondering when Chimpanzee got into position. He does not stay rattled for long, because Chimpanzee immediately mocks the other man's speed and starts to add, "But did you know?" And a voice cuts in with the reveal that Chimpanzee is Chimpanzee as Dako brother closes from both sides, only for Chimpanzee to rush straight into the gap and meet their attacks head-on. He suddenly breaks off and blurts out for everyone to wait, because something about this is not right. Instead, an off-panel voice realizes Dako Brother is not a speed type at all, just as he blurs forward anyway and grins at the reaction. He openly mocks the shock, asking if they are surprised because he is not what they expected. He fires back that surprise means nothing here, because they still will not be able to do a thing. Now Dako Brother gets behind Chimpanzee and locks him down, warning that once he has caught him, it is over. Chimpanzee strains against the hold and blurts out his surprise that someone that young is this strong. He presses in on Chimpanzee and repeats that this ends the moment he catches him. Dako Brother goes even further, saying that if Chimpanzee is figure, he has no way out. One of Dako Brother suddenly shouts for Dako Brother to let Chimpanzee go, and Dako Brother stops short with a confused, "What? Why?" He does not answer the warning at all. Chimpanzee just laughs at the Pietro talk and flatly says that even if this person were reborn, they still could not be Pietro. Now an off-panel voice shouts that he was a legend at that age, as Chimpanzee heaves his opponent upside down and drives him into a brutal slam while the nearby onlooker stares in shock. He does not stop there. Chimpanzee explodes upward into the attackers around him, knocking them back at once as a furious shout tears through the fight. "You deranked children!" Now Dako Brother is flat on the ground, drenched in sweat, and all he can register is how strong his opponent is. He cannot even get a word out because his throat is being crushed. He cuts off any struggle with a sharp, "Oh no you don't," and starts spelling it out. The average adult male can squeeze with 45 kilograms of force, but Chimpanzee's grip strength is on another level. And Chimpanzee drives the point home as he lunges forward, declaring that his grip strength hits 130 kilograms. Behind him, a giant chimpanzee-like shape roars into view. Now Dako Brother spits back that Pietro means nothing here and says his hands have already shut him down before throwing out one more challenge. Has Pietro ever even faced a disciple before? And that confidence slips for a second when a startled voice blurts out, "Huh? What's that?" And in the next instant, the dark-haired, uniformed figure whips through them, clutching Dako Brother by the neck or collar and carrying a second opponent into the same sweeping hit. An unlinked voice breaks out in shock. This is... As the shock spreads, a voice blurts out that they pulled off a flying armbar at the same time, without even speaking. Chimpanzee is caught in the hold, and another voice fires back that whatever Dako Brother thinks of himself, he has no right to look down on other people's dreams. And now Chimpanzee's face is clamped down hard as he struggles in the hold, while a voice doubles down on the challenge and declares that no matter what anyone says, Chimpanzee and Dako Brother are going to become Pietro. He pushes past the shouting and demands an answer. What is the reason, and why do they want to become Pietro so badly? And the answer comes from both Dako Brother and Dako Brother at once. This was obvious from the start, and to them, becoming Pietro is simply their fate. 11 years earlier, the story shifts to a building on a mountainside as a voice from off-panel asks, "Did you know?" And the answer comes back bluntly, "Yes, even orphans have ranks." The talk shifts to the two Dako Brother boys specifically, with someone adding that they apparently did not even have names when they first arrived, drawing a stunned reaction. So one Dako Brother cracks a joke asking what people were supposed to call them, and the answer stuck on its own. They just became those guys. And now a voice off-panel turns to his brother and asks if that is not strange. Now the older Dako Brother asks why they were the only ones locked up when they fought together, and the younger Dako Brother shoots back that the other started it. Another voice adds that everyone was happy when Father Gabriel was still alive. One Dako Brother asks if their mother is coming back for them someday, and the answer comes down hard. She will not. Dako Brother immediately fires back, demanding to know how anyone can be so sure. He answers him plainly. Their mother threw them away without even giving them names, so she is not coming back. He pushes it even further. There is no one, and no one will come looking for nameless kids like them. Instead, a red book comes flying in and smashes straight into Dako Brother's face, knocking him back as he yells, "OWW!" Still reeling, Dako Brother blurts that even an old book is hitting him but Dako brother cuts in, spots something in the open red book, and drops to inspect it more closely. And the page answers him. A diary entry says, "I didn't have a name." Another voice starts to react to the book, stopping at, "This book is." The writing keeps going. Everyone called the speaker the lone wolf, and even though it was meant as an insult, they accepted the name. So the speaker drops the argument and makes a choice instead. They will endure the mockery and prove how great this lone wolf can become. And the diary makes it plain. The speaker finally got a name, keeps repeating it in private, even if it sounds stupid, and already knows the people outside this place will not say it. Now the next line throws both Dako brother and Dako brother off. One of them blurts out in disbelief, and the other looks back to the page for confirmation as the book declares, "But I'm going to sleep with determination again today." And the vow sharpens into one clear promise. The speaker refuses to become someone unworthy of the name Pietro. Now the diary gives them a name to latch onto. One of the Dako brothers blurts out that this is Pietro's diary. And as they keep reading, they realize Pietro was alone when he was young. So the diary stops being just Pietro's story and gives the Dako brothers an idea of their own. One asks if they should choose their names too. The other points to Pietro's nickname and says, "Lone Wolf sounds cool," which earns immediate approval as the first good suggestion he's made, and he jumps on that reaction right away. So he turns the joke into something real, declares that as brothers he'll be Dako Hyung, and names Dako brother Dako J. As Dako brother explains that they wanted to become someone like Pietro, Kagyo answers that he gets it and calls it a sad story. He doesn't get any comfort from that, because an off-panel voice cuts in and says the two of them cannot become Pietro. A quiet, "I see," follows, and the same voice calls them out for looking sad. One of the Dako brothers leans in with the other and answers with a blunt uncertainty. Nobody really knows. Kagyo says it might be possible only if the two Dako brothers become one instead of two. One of the Dako brothers immediately asks what he means. Instead, the two Dako brother end up with their wrists tied together and yell at Bear Sir, demanding to know how this is supposed to make them one and why his so-called training does not even count as training. The man in the red cap cuts through their complaints with a blunt threat. He can just kill them instead. And somehow, that only gets eager agreement, with Dako brother accepting it on the spot, while Dako brother says he had wanted to stay with Hyung for a long time anyway. Now both Dako brother and Dako brother are dropping into the rocky chasm, one yelling not to let go while another voice shouts for Hyung not to move. Over them, an off-panel voice keeps drilling the lesson in. They are not two, and their bodies and minds have to become one. Now the two Dako brothers start arguing over which way to dodge, one shouting right, and the other correcting him to the left, and the red-capped instructor's strike catches them both anyway. The instructor snaps that if they cannot dodge in the same direction, they will keep getting hit. Next, Kagyo leans by the restroom door and mocks the whole idea, asking if they are supposed to use the toilet together too, since there is only one. He even tells them to sink that as well. Now Chimpanzee explodes, screaming at the unseen Duranks as he lunges in and hacks his blade into the ground. Now Chimpanzee freezes and questions what he just saw from those two. And that shock turns concrete fast. A voice admits it just felt a killing intent unlike anything before, while a jacketed man stands over someone on the ground with a hand near the fallen person's head. At the same time, the black-haired, dark jacket or coat with a light collar figure stares ahead, his eyes lit red. He only doubles down, asking what any of that changes before dismissing them as Durang children and boasting that they still cannot fight him. Yuna keeps herself hidden and watches Dako brother, but after thinking about the man who got caught in an armbar and how he still tossed the brothers around like nothing, she realizes she is alone and has nothing to use. He leans in and makes it plain. Now it is just the two of them, and Chimpanzee tells us to quit. And Dako brother gets smashed from the right mid-sentence, hard enough that he can only think in shock about where the hit even came from, while the unseen voice cuts its own point short and corrects itself. For starters, looks mean nothing. Now Chimpanzee clutches his face and blurts out that he was hit from far away, even though there are no weapons anywhere, while Yuna stays across from him without closing the distance. He changes his tone completely and gives credit where he did not before, telling the off-panel target, "Your adaptability is amazing." Now the off-panel voice points out that Dako brother put that weapon together in almost no time, only to mock her for trusting a ball on a string to beat them. He breaks into laughter and shifts the mockery again, saying those brothers were trained by a disciple, and asking if Chimpanzee's off-panel opponent learned from Pietro too. He gets an immediate correction. Yuna raises her cord-wrapped hand and flatly says no, she was not trained by Pietro. He bursts out laughing, says he was only joking, and mocks her for answering him so seriously. From there, Chimpanzee pushes back harder, asking how she could ever have met Pietro at all and warning that he is not some friendly next-door neighbor. Now Yuna catches herself with a sharp, "Ah, fuck," and trails off mid-thought. He cuts himself off as a wide-eyed reaction follows. A voice blurts out, "What's that?" and immediately rejects what it is seeing, unable to believe it, and asking why it is different compared to those two. Dako brother lifts the beads and openly asks for someone more skilled, and Yuna answers on the spot that she will show him. A rough laugh slips out first, and the figure finally agrees. Fine. He keeps talking, admitting the off-panel opponent is more than just a pretty face and pointing to two things in particular: their adaptability and the weapon they made. Now Kim Sungu points straight at the dark-clothed listener and tears into his standing, calling them rank 335, a D rank. He says that alone means they cannot win, and claims killer experience matters more than anything else. He cuts himself off and locks onto what he saw before, deciding it was real after all. Kim Sungu insists 17 years as a killer should be enough for him to see it clearly. He stops himself with a sharp "no, wait," and says his 17 years as a killer tell him exactly what he's looking at. The words die in his throat when all Kim Sungu can manage is, That's. Now Yuna charges in, whipping her stringed orb forward and yelling at the off-panel target to stop acting like a pervert and face her. As Yuna rushes the target, Chimpanzee grabs Kim Sungu from behind and yanks his cheeks wide. Kim Sungu snaps at Chimpanzee to get a grip and says that once he gets off the island, his first stop is the hospital. Now Yuna snaps back that she had been wondering how a feeble girl like her planned to fight at all, while pulling her string tight between both hands. She reads the off-panel opponent's approach for what it is, a fight built around ranged attacks, and readies her own counter. He reads Yuna's plan on the spot, spelling it out as a ranged fight to make up for her lack of physical strength, and calls it the basic rule of combat. Chimpanzee even credits her for being smart before pressing the real question. What does she do now? Chimpanzee answers his own question at once, saying his weapon is useless here, and he leans into the explanation with a single word, because. He follows that up by lifting the rosary and mocking Yuna outright, saying her presence almost scared him for a second before deciding he was just imagining it. Yuna keeps her corded weapon ready and closes the distance anyway. He fires a pink strike across the clearing in a fast, curving line, and a voice blurts out, pleading for this one attack to connect. Instead, Chimpanzee bursts out laughing and shouts at the off-panel target to throw it properly, mocking them for missing again. Now Chimpanzee drops the laughter and warns the off-panel target that if they keep this up, something is going to go wrong. He answers that warning by surging straight in and taunting the off-panel target again, saying they'll just keep missing. Now Chimpanzee jerks back and blurts out, "What? Who's there?" He stares into the clearing and realizes there's nobody there. Chimpanzee blurts out that no one is there at all, then demands to know what just happened. Now the black-haired, dark, sleeveless collar-top figure can only stare and blurt out, "No way." She surges forward with the small round object, raised, and forces herself on, repeating that she only needs a little more. She holds out a blue metallic pendant in her palm and puts it forward as proof, asking what they think and starting to say that if she has this, something changes. She asks if she might survive, and Kim Sungu shuts it down with a flat no while lining up his shot. Yuna tells him he could at least pretend to think about it, but Kim Sungu only says he answered exactly what she asked. Yuna looks up, eyes widening, and only gets out a sharp protest, but Kim Sungu leans over the table and lines up his shot as he explains that a rope dart can deal heavy damage from a distance without much strength. He leaves it at one word. However, he points out that the rope dart has a weakness too. If the location does not allow it to be used, the weapon becomes useless there. Another voice questions that immediately, and the only answer back is stunned disbelief. He leans in and throws the challenge straight at her. Chimpanzee tells Miss Yuna to try hitting that. He follows it up by marking the route on the table and saying it starts from here, while Yuna watches him line up the shot. And the target turns out to be the bed itself, sealed inside a glowing blue barrier with a small cylinder resting at its center. Now Yuna just blurts out what the setup means for her. She has no idea how she is supposed to hit that. He cuts in with the answer himself. There is never just one path to strike through. When Dako brothers ask what he means, Chimpanzee spells it out. The path is something they have to create. As Kim Sunga heads for the door, Yuna throws out a quick goodbye, but another call stops him cold by name and demands an explanation for what he meant about creating a path. But instead of an answer, voices from outside drift in. One groans, "I'm dead." Another immediately dismisses it, and the exchange turns into a blunt question. Are there even other people in this world like them? He gets his answer a moment later. As Kim Sunga stares at the two men lying on separate beds with their wrists bound together, one of them says they're doing a kind of training he could never imagine. She throws out one test right away and asks if they have tried sleeping at the same time, but Kim Sungu and Dako brother immediately yell that if they do, one of them gets woken up anyway, and even sharing a bathroom trip is already too much. Yuna cuts the complaints short, says she gets it, and orders both of them to back off because they stink. A moment later, Kim Sungu and Yuna are left asking where Lee Yuna went, and with training only letting them sleep 3 hours a day, they wonder if she somehow slipped off to sleep and dream in peace. So Kim Sungu turns away while the room settles on the obvious plan, just sleep. One of them counts down to 3, and the next voice immediately ruins it by asking if it was supposed to be 4. He answers at last. Yes, she's dreaming, and Kim Sunga starts to add what that probably means before the thought trails off. And Yuna answers that herself by springing up and driving her racket down, sending the shuttlecock flying as the thought lands. She is dreaming about how much she'll improve. Next, the dark-haired figure jolts in a tight close-up, caught in sudden shock. Now Yuna whips around and snaps her right hand through in one fast motion, turning that shock into an immediate strike. Across the room, Yuna moves carefully through the clutter instead of pressing forward openly, while a pointed cord hanging overhead sways in her path. Now Yuna drops to her knees and admits it isn't working. She says the obstacles are too many, and no matter what she tries, she still can't reach the target. She refuses to stay down. Yuna says she'll try again, and if she still has enough energy to talk, she can keep pushing harder. A pale hand tears down at full speed, but it only scrapes the surface instead of landing cleanly. Kim Sungu snaps back with a frustrated shout that it was almost a hit. He answers by driving his fist forward again, and the order to do it repeats with him. Kim Sungu keeps the attack coming. He goes for the hanging weight again, shouting that this time he'll catch it. Now Yuna stops short, realizing the problem is not her aim at all. She says she has thrown it thousands of times, but with too many obstacles in the way, she cannot hit the target. Now Yuna snaps back at the excuse itself and fires one question straight ahead. Who is in her way? Across the room, Yuna suddenly looks down and stops, keeping hold of the corded handle in her hand. She blurts out that they are in a forest, and right after that, a gray and white furred animal drops into the foreground in a straight attack. She jerks clear of the blow, and even the reaction off-panel turns surprised that Yuna actually dodged it. A voice immediately admits the pervert was right, while Kim Sunga's strike misses her face. Chimpanzee checks the trees around the clearing and realizes a bad throw will snag the ball in the branches and leave Chimpanzee open to attack. Holding the string weapon ready, Chimpanzee pauses to work out a safer angle. Now Yuna breaks into a sprint with the pink ball still clenched in her hand, and one of the voices presses her to throw it if the trees are the problem. Another taunt follows, telling her it is time to go with her husband. Now a dark gray-haired man is right behind Yuna, leaning in close as he singles her out with one word, doll face. She goes still and stares ahead. Now Yuna keeps running and realizes he's just playing with her. She decides to wait for the moment he finally drops his guard and take him down. And Chimpanzee has to give ground as glowing shots rip past him and slam into the trees. An unseen attacker laughs and calls his combat skills pathetic. Elsewhere, Chimpanzee stands over the billiards table as a voice says Sungu had been telling him the same thing. The line turns the moment into a recollection instead of a response. Now Dako Brothers leans in over the table and lines up the white ball, finally understanding that the other man had been steering him toward the answer instead of handing it over. Moments later, B-Rank Killer grabs the back of his head, sees blood on his hand, and curses in confusion. He admits he does not know what is happening anymore, but says he has changed his mind. Now the black-haired figure drops the pretense and openly declares that he is done playing around. He says he is just going to kill his opponent. And now B-Rank Killer tightens the string around his fist, with the pink ball hanging from it at the ready. As B-Rank Killer keeps the cord clenched in his fist, a voice likens it to a maze. The explanation shifts from a threat to how this weapon works. He explains that getting lost is part of it. Every time the target's position changes, the maze changes with it. B-Rank Killer tells the listener not to lose heart, because learning that shifting path is how they land an accurate hit. Now, the guidance sharpens. The unseen speaker tells Yuna she will miss at first because of the obstacles and to trust her eyes. Yuna locks her gaze forward. Now Kim Sungu gives her the key outright. Remove the wrong paths, and the right one will appear. Yuna stays behind him, watching as he adjusts the vertical rods. Now Yuna jerks around with the cord still in her hand as the explanation continues. When that happens, the battlefield itself changes. She ends up near a doorway and counter, reacting to the shift immediately. She moves at once. Yuna dives in hard, driving forward with one arm raised as a bright arc cuts across the front. The guidance continues with a final point. Something here will become her weapon. Now the trap closes on B-Rank Killer as a barrage of long white strikes tears through the clearing, with one pink-tipped shot driving straight at him. Above him, another dark-clad figure is already mid-leap as the attack keeps coming. And the dark-haired humanoid is driven straight into the ground, blasting out a crater in a violent burst of dust and debris. A black-haired, dark silhouette humanoid watches from the foreground as the impact lands. As he tumbles away, coughing blood through the debris, Yuna realizes she had him wrong. Her opponent was never missing at all. She was adjusting her trajectory until the hit finally connected. And even Dako Brothers and B-Rank Killer are left staring, openly impressed. One of them calls Yuna unbelievably cool, and the other brushes it off as coincidence before admitting it was still cool anyway. Now Chimpanzee drops to all fours, clutching his head as he screams and spits out a furious insult at the off-panel attackers. He starts threatening what he'd do to these mere deranks, but the line cuts off mid-shout. As his threat dies in his throat, B-Rank Killer snaps his head to the side. Something off-panel has caught him completely off guard. Across the clash, Chimpanzee suddenly flips straight through the middle of B-Rank Killer, Dako Brother, and Dako Brothers with a heavy impact. The hit breaks their formation at once, driving Dako Brothers downward as the others recoil. Now Chimpanzee is the one pinned upside down, and he can only snarl at whoever's holding him, demanding to know how long they can keep him there. He follows it with a promise to kill them the moment he gets free. Even so, B-Rank Killer locks both hands around Chimpanzee's wrist and tries to keep him down, but the strain shows immediately. He blurts out that Chimpanzee is too strong to hold and shouts for how much longer he has to keep this up. A voice suddenly calls, now, Yuna, and the signal is answered at once with a burst of rapid movement. As the pink-tipped projectile cuts in, Dako Brother jolts while still holding Chimpanzee. Chimpanzee just breaks into loud laughter and mocks Yuna, saying she was only lucky before. He snaps back at the taunt, demanding, was I really? And swears he'll kill the two in front of him before going after the next target. The threat trails off when Dako brother suddenly catches something else and blurts out, "What?" And right after that, two figures drop straight into the clearing and hit the ground hard. Their sudden landing cuts into the fight all at once. Now Chimpanzee hangs upside down and blurts out that this is impossible, staring at the attack in disbelief. He can only get out that attack. Instead, Chimpanzee starts explaining it himself and points to the key detail. An attack dropped from above only gets faster on the way down. Now Yuna turns that lesson into a hit, dropping straight down onto the target below and driving the blow home in a burst of debris. As Yuna bursts forward again, a voice warns that the blow can hit with the force of a car. The strike detonates below her in another heavy impact. Now a voice calls it. It's over. Chimpanzee is down on the dirt with blood at his mouth, and another nearby voice hesitates before asking if he fainted. Now the group crowds around the fallen woman in the purple dress, and the celebration breaks out. One voice blurts out that they really beat a B rank. Another jumps straight to asking if that makes them B rankers, and someone else pushes back since it was 3 against 1. Yuna turns back with her backpack as the talk shifts from celebration to reality. One of them says this one still would not get them promoted to B rank. Someone urges the group to find Sungu first, but another voice cuts in and shuts that down with a flat, "No need." Instead, B-rank killer is named at last B-rank killer, and he crouches down to face them with a simple threat. Since they're all going to die here, there is no need to look for anyone. Now, Dako brother freezes up and admits he never even sensed this person's presence, while B-rank killer questions whether it is the same B-rank from the factory. Whoever they are, the comparison shifts immediately. This newcomer looks even stronger than Chimpanzee. Instead, one of them forces the group forward, brushing off the threat and insisting that since they already beat Chimpanzee, they can win this too if they fight together. He cuts that down immediately. B-rank killer says they have the situation completely wrong, and he has no intention of fighting them. Instead, Dako brothers and B-rank killer look ahead as one of them notes, almost surprised, that the newcomer is coming in peace. Now Yuna jerks forward and rams her cable into the pink heart-shaped object, cracking it on impact. Now B-rank killer levels a handgun at the off-panel target and makes it plain he is done holding back. He says he will shoot wherever he wants, and next time he is aiming for the head. Now B-rank killer and Dako brother panic, and one of them blurts out that using a gun is cheating. The other immediately turns to Dako brother and asks what they are supposed to do. And Yuna puts it together. The earlier gunshots came from him. She says he is someone they cannot fight and asks if there is any way out of this. The guards freeze and turn toward the bushes, and one of them warns, "I think someone's here." Dako brother starts moving with his handgun up as the others keep their guns trained that way. And Yuna suddenly recognizes the shooter and blurts out, "It's Sungli." Instead, Yuna just freezes and blurts out, "Huh?" Her certainty breaks the moment she sees whatever is in front of her. And now Thaddeus steps into view, lifts a hand, and cheerfully calls out, "Oh, hey, brothers and sisters." As soon as he appears, B-rank killer trains his handgun on Thaddeus while the group demands to know who he is. The reply comes out confused at first, and a system notice identifies him as Spotted Butterfly, a D rank. Now Dako brother says he came over after hearing the gunshots and asks where Brother Pumpkin went and why only they are here. Dako brothers keeps the handgun down and answers with a welcoming line of his own, thanking Dako brother for coming alone. He escalates it at once Thaddeus's handgun stops at Killer's forehead, and Killer just mocks the threat, telling him to fire. He turns it into a straight contest, challenging Thaddeus to see which is faster, the gun or him. He pushes the gun forward and cuts back with a death threat, telling his target that for someone about to die, they're acting awfully tough. As B-rank killer moves with Yuna, he realizes the butterfly mister is smart and immediately warns that this is really bad. Yuna asks what he means. He explains the first move at point-blank range. Grab the gun and take control of it. From there, you swing your body off the line and dodge. Now Killer has a gun on Thaddeus, and Thaddeus just lifts a finger and turns the explanation back on him. If that is how close-range gun defense works, then he is the one with the advantage. He pauses to rethink it and asks what would make this more fun. And a second later, B-rank killer lands on an idea. Yeah, that. And the next suggestion is even worse. An off-panel voice blurts out, "What about this? If I do this, it'll be more fun, right?" Chimpanzee goes wide-eyed as the others can only call it crazy and ask how any of this is supposed to be fun. Now, Thaddeus raises the gun and barks, "Okay, shoot." The confrontation jumps straight from twisted talk to an immediate order.